talk about this new, the situation is interesting with this food products company. Who wants to tell me about that?
I'd be more than happy to. We had found out about it through our mayor. Actually, he'd been very frustrated, so he called up a local TV station, one that was a little bit more aggressive, and they came out and showed, that they're taking these beer bottles and having to open up one each time to make, a beer batter type of sauce. And how frustrated he was. And he said he'd been trying to move this through for 2 years. This company has been frustrated. They couldn't do anything about it, and asked if there was anything that we could do. So we've contacted Governor Kasich and Lieutenant Governor Mary Taylor, and they jumped right in and said, we've got to do what we have to do to help these businesses. So.
How big is this culinary, the Boozy Soups place?
I'm not quite sure.
Is there a spokesperson here?
22.
22 employees?
22 employees.
Does that require a law change, legislation to do that?
Yes, it does actually. We're working with Senator Manning to draft language to actually get that changed. It's kind of one of those, again, Senator Manning said, common sense solutions to a problem that is keeping them from competing with other companies that do business outside of Ohio and inside.
Tell me how they are kept from competing. What's the problem here?
Because of the way Ohio law is written, and the fact that they have to purchase alcohol products retail, first of all, retail price, and in the product that it comes in, literally, as Senator Manning has said, they're opening bottles of beer or bottles of wine and having to sanitize it and dump it into a vat where they're making a product, that's of mass quantity. So their cost is higher, whether it's the purchase of the alcohol initially, or the process that they have to go through. And I believe we have a spokesperson from the company who is here with us in case you want to ask specific questions.
Can't they just buy a keg? Can't you buy a keg and pour it in there?
It's there'd be a lot of kegs.
But you're not actually opening 12-ounce bottles of Bud and pouring it in, are you?
The company uses beer, wine, and spirits. Mm-hmm. And just to put it into context, they're purchasing, last year they purchased over 60,000 pounds of wine. And, in many instances, it's Chardonnay, it's Cabernet, it depends on the type of sauce the customer wants. And so in some instances, yeah, it literally is bottles of wine.
Okay.
There's a person who gets up on top of a vat and dumps it in, yeah.
You can't have that job.
I know, really. I was going to say, that's a great job.
You're laughing. I'm like, wait a minute, what's the
That's a great job.
Common sense, though. There's no common sense here.
So this would work by basically going when something comes up for renewal, or you could even expedite it so that it's not necessarily up for renewal, but if you could just pull it because it's hurting businesses and there's a lot of complaints. At that point, you would look at it for how it will affect businesses then? Is that the deal?
CSI is intended to, there's a couple prongs. First of all, to look at any new rules that are proposed, that those new rules go through a process that is, a common sense process, but also that they analyze or review what the impact would be on small businesses. Small businesses in Ohio is the economic engine of our economy. Those small businesses oftentimes are the ones most impacted by rules or regulations. They can't afford to have paid consultants, paid staff who that person spends an entire 8-hour day, 40 hours a week looking at regulations that impact their business. So it's that, but it's also to look at all of the rules and regulations that currently exist in an ongoing way to make sure that every rule and every regulation makes sense. So it's new rules, but it's also applicable to those that exist. If we at the CSI office receive a significant amount of complaints regarding a particular rule, then we have the authority to make it go through a review process sooner than the 5-year rule review.
Are the agencies asking some of these questions anyway, or no? In terms of what's in your analysis and things like that?
Well, I can respond based on what we've heard. And what we've heard is, you travel and you talk to small business owners across Ohio or business owners. No, not from their perspective. These things aren't being considered. And instead of having a check-the-box mentality where they're reviewing their own rules and their own regulations and saying, of course we comply, and going through a checklist and just marking them off, we're actually going to go through a deliberative process to make sure that they have considered what the impact would be on small business. And that in light of that, they've taken appropriate public comment and have developed what would be a common sense solution or a common sense rule or regulation, and that they understand the impact on small business.
How much time do you think it'll take to do this analysis, though, on each rule? I mean, do you think it could actually end up bogging down the rule process?
If you're talking about the ongoing process of a new rule gets proposed, that's what we're working with the EPA in a pilot project to walk with them through a rule process and try to develop a process that makes sense, because of course the last thing we want to do is add another layer of bureaucracy that hinders the process or impedes the process.
We have long heard from bar owners that the smoking law is a problem for them. It hurts their business. Is that something that you would be willing to look at and review, since a lot of them are complaining about it?
We have not heard about that. I didn't hear about it during our travels. I'm not sure if anyone here has. It's not something that's come to our attention. That is a constitutional amendment, which is a very different issue, right? No? Didn't we pass a law that bans smoking?
It's a law, but it's
not a law, not a constitutional amendment. I think I would leave that up to the legislature.
Last question. How quickly do you expect this to move, or is it going to become part of the budget?
My understanding would not be. We're very hopeful that this will be moving within a month. Give people enough time to look at it, but also we need to get it moving to help businesses. Thank you.